For millennia, humanity has struggled with a single question. What does a person experience at the moment of death? And what truly comes next? Religions offer different answers. Some terrify us with eternal fire and punishment. Others promise heavenly gardens and eternal bliss. But what if the truth is completely different? Something much deeper and much more insidious. In the 1970s, two brave men dared to test it firsthand. Skeptical investigative journalist Maurice Barbanell and leading paranormal researcher Paul Beard struck a deal that no one in human history had ever dared to make. Whichever of them dies first is bound by all means to break back through and tell how the afterlife is actually structured. Maurice Barbanell died first, and he broke through.
The London Transcripts, the Barbanell Report. Get ready. What you will learn in the next few minutes might be your only chance not to lose your identity after death, getting stuck forever on the boundary between two worlds. To understand how this report became possible, we have to go back to London in 1931. Maurice Barbanell was a young, ambitious journalist with a cold, analytical mind. Born to a devoutly religious mother and a fanatical atheist father, his childhood was a battleground of beliefs. This chaos made Maurice a hardcore materialist. His only ambition was to build a commercial career and make a fortune. In 1931, while serving as secretary for a literary debating society, he heard a lecture on spiritualism. Highly skeptical, Barbanell decided to investigate it like a real reporter, to unmask what he thought was a fraud. He attended his first seances with one goal: catch the tricksters red-handed. But during his second seance, something terrifying happened. The cynical journalist suddenly fell into a deep, forced sleep. When he woke up, the witnesses were in shock. They told him that an ancient spirit guide had just spoken through his mouth. This was the entity known as Silver Birch. For Barbanell, this discovery was a professional death sentence.
If the media system found out that a top reporter was talking to spirits, his career would be instantly destroyed. So in 1932, he founded a newspaper called Psychic News and published the transcripts for decades, completely anonymously. For nearly 40 years, he investigated other mediums, using his reporter skills to expose hundreds of fake charlatans. In 1959, he wrote, "No supernormal theory should be accepted if a normal one will fit all the facts." He knew the counterfeit because he had witnessed the genuine. He knew man persists after death as an intelligent, conscious individual. And this brings us back to the 1970s, to his friend Paul Beard and their secret, unbreakable pact. When Barbanell closed his eyes for the last time in 1981, he wasn't just dying. He was starting his final, most critical assignment. He was passing through the tunnel. And exactly 7 months later, the transmission from the other side began. This transfer of information lasted for 4 whole years and ended because Barbanello's soul lost interest in further communication.
Here is the uncensored report of what happens the moment you cross the final border. According to the transmitted transcripts, the moment of death looked nothing like what religion or science had predicted. Barbanell transmitted his first impressions clearly. The passing itself was easy, as if a person simply leaves one room and steps into another. He reported waking up without pain, seeing the tunnel effect, and meeting his long-gone relatives. But immediately after, he encountered the first anomaly. Barbanell warned of a state he called the dream trap, a seductive, illusionary haze that targets newly arrived souls. In his report, he stated that without proper preparation, a soul could easily get stuck in this dreamlike state for a very long time. But because Barbanell was a seasoned investigator who knew what to expect, he managed to stay on his guard and forced himself to awaken. Next came the most profound part of the cosmic system, the life review. Barbanell described it through a striking visual metaphor. He explained that it felt like watching a giant toy railway from his childhood, where instead of trains, he was forced to watch scenes of his own past actions. The transcripts showed that he was made to face every past crisis and decision.
events he was proud of, and moments that filled him with deep regret. The reporter confessed that he watched himself turn a deaf ear to others in moments when he should have stopped and listened.
Following this review, Barbanell realized what truly prevents human souls from ascending to higher realms: earthly ties. He described material obsessions and unresolved emotional attachments as heavy iron chains wrapped around the feet, anchoring the spirit to the earth. The next major revelation was the nature of that reality. The afterlife is entirely subjective. It is an environment generated by the mind. This is not a single world, but a multitude of personal realities. The soul sees and experiences what it is ready or wants to see. It is necessary to consciously expand perception. Otherwise, it is easy to get stuck in a comfortable but limited illusion. He said it was much more interesting than expected. The possibilities are endless and even a little scary. There is still some confusion with the realities. A lot depends on what you want to see. It is difficult to constantly adapt.
Barbanell noted that when he visited his elderly mother, he had to temporarily accept her version of reality, because everything there depends on what a person wants to see. This explains the true mechanics of hell. The afterlife does not punish anyone. People punish themselves, locking their minds in the trap of their own negative dogmas and selfishness. Heaven, in Barbanell's reports, is the higher astral realms where the law of instantaneous mental creativity operates. Those who lived a life of spiritual service unlocked limitless creative power, constructing clothing and homes out of astral fluids instantly through sheer thought. He reported that telepathic communication replaced clumsy human words, allowing souls to convey subtle nuances that spoken language could never express. The soul's progress was slow and imperceptible.
Barbanell expected a huge shift in spiritual awareness, but it did not happen. The only noticeable difference is that the subconscious has merged with the conscious. The simpler the soul, the more acceptance. The more the soul evolves, the more questions arise that need answering. At the same time, he was surprised by the number of souls who have been there for a long time, but show no desire to learn or become more aware. Also, there are soul groups of people who still hold on tightly to their families, so there is no progress until they move beyond that. It is difficult for some to do that. Time in the afterlife feels completely different. There is no clear linear feeling, but there is an awareness that everything is happening in slow motion.
As a separate chapter of his posthumous findings, Maurice Barbanell dedicated his research to reincarnation. His conclusions are staggering. Returning to Earth is not a forced law of karma, but a purely voluntary choice. Our soul is like a colossal quantum computer, and our earthly life is merely a single isolated file that the higher self has downloaded into the Earth matrix to gather data. Memory is intentionally wiped before birth, so as not to shatter the human mind under the crushing weight of the past.
Yet most souls, having tasted the freedom of the higher realms, choose never to return to the heavy physical prison of Earth. The material world of Earth is incredibly difficult, dense, and painful for souls. Therefore, an extremely strong internal reason is needed to return here. Who then dares to voluntarily descend back into our world? Barbanell discovered that only 3 categories of souls choose to serve another term in the earthly prison. First are the spiritual thrill seekers, who pursue accelerated evolution through earthly pain and hardship. Second are the souls shackled by overly powerful earthly attachments or a thirst for vengeance. And third are the great teachers, visionaries who enter our dimension as missionaries to bring forth new knowledge and help humanity awaken.
The report concludes that the more evolved a soul becomes, the more questions it seeks to answer, expanding endlessly into the infinity of the universe. When Paul Bird received these transcripts during the years 1982 to 1985, he realized that his longtime friend had fulfilled the terms of the pact. The report was eventually published, becoming a solid historical record, legally preserved outside the mainstream media system.
But the transcripts also contained a vital warning from Barbanell's spirit guide, Silver Birch, regarding our current physical existence. The entity observed that billions of people spend their lives frantic and despairing,
rushing after material illusions while neglecting the soul. According to the cosmic law, earthly life is not pointless. It is a critical sorting mechanism. The transcripts state that a meaningful life is measured only by spiritual service, guiding a lost soul, creating beauty, or comforting the grieving. The highest purpose of our existence is the unfolding of the spirit, allowing it to return to its original form, immortal light. The system can control your daily routine, your finance, and your status, but it is completely powerless against the choices your consciousness makes. Break the earthly chains before it's too late. Do not allow your mind to fall asleep in the sweet illusions of stagnation.
Barbanell's main conclusion is that we ourselves are the architects of our future home. Every thought we cherish, every action we take on Earth, lays a brick in the reality that will meet us after our final breath. No external judgment, just a pure mirror of your soul. Subscribe to the System Files. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think awaits you when the final flatline comes? Thank you for watching, and stay aware.